Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining my chat today. I am excited to talk about a topic that has been near and dear to me with my coaching practice as well as personally. By way of introduction, I'm Annie DeStefano. I am a coach on the Coach.me platform. I specialize in career planning, usually in the earlier to mid stages of your career, with a particular focus on working with women in business, although I have clients that are men and women as well. And this topic around transforming your career in just minutes every day is really about building a habit to help you with furthering your career goals. And just a little bit of background of why this topic is so important to me. Earlier on in my career, I really struggled with always taking stock of where I was in my career and being extremely, extremely hard on myself. And I found myself getting extremely frustrated with the progress in my career, not seeing results as fast as I wanted it to, feeling like I was behind my peers or wasn't in the right role or career or job, and really just kind of beating myself up over it day in and day out. And when I took a step back and took stock of these feelings, I came to a bit of a epiphany, I guess you could say, where the reason I was so frustrated and having these problems with how I felt about my career is that I had no plan. I had no goals. I had no pen to paper plan of what I was working towards. I was probably just chasing titles and compensation. But really, there was nothing that I had written down and said to myself, Annie, this is what you're working towards in your career. So when I realized that, I just stopped being hard on myself and started to plan and to actually map out some goals and build a habit to help me with building my career every day. And that's what we're going to talk through today. And I hope you find some kind of nuggets of insights and practices that you can start in your career and job journey. And I thought it would be fun to, one, share where you're logging in from, because it's fun that we're all over the world. And then also, if you're comfortable with it, throughout the chat, maybe just put in the chat and share what your career goal is for 2021. For me personally, it's to continue building my coaching practice through events like this, as well as writing and working closely with my clients on the platform. So if you have a career goal that you're already thinking about for this year, I think it'd be great to share it with the group here so we can all hold each other accountable. All right, so let's dig in. Now, in starting and thinking about your career, it's, of course, important to think big. But at the same time, I think you have to think a little bit small. So if you take a step back and look at your career horizon the next 5, 10, 15 years, you might have some pretty large goals. So for example, maybe you want to be the CEO of the company that you work at or be the CEO of your own company. That's a pretty large goal and an important one to have, but that's a little bit like boiling the ocean of how do you become a CEO. It's not that you just wake up the next day and you have that title. So we're going to talk through how do you actually break down your career goal into kind of more actionable, bite-sized pieces that help keep you motivated throughout your practice. And to the point of using a practice, it's all about building habits. So a lot of what I work with clients on the platform is around using habits to your advantage and applying this into thinking about your career goals. And with that, it's actually alongside distilling the larger goals into these bite-sized actions to help you achieve your ultimate outcome. So although we should all think about our large career goal, what is the North Star, the ultimate title, profession, industry you want to be in, whatever that large goal may be, we have to think small too, and all of the bite-sized items and goals that we can achieve to get us there. Now, the first place that I like to start is thinking about getting your mindset correct, and in particular, having a mindset of urgency. And this isn't meant to be putting a lot of pressure on yourself, feeling like you have to move quickly. Urgency in this context means that you are making a promise to yourself and holding yourself accountable that you are going to work on this goal every day or whatever timeline makes sense for you. So a practice that I've done with my clients is to actually sit down and look at a calendar, start with 7 days in a week, and say on Monday, I am going to spend 15 minutes thinking about my career and writing down a goal. That's all I'm going to do. 15 minutes is the promise that I'm making myself for Monday, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to it. And that mindset of urgency, of always having that top of mind, knowing you have something to do every day, that is just putting some of your mind about creating a for your goal setting for your career, is the first step in this journey. Because if you do nothing, then your results will be nothing, because you're not putting the time in or in that investment. And this whole practice of building this habit every day is to really just put the investment in to kind of get the ball down the field for the longer term career goal that you're going after. But in the process, you find yourself achieving all of these smaller goals along the way, which ultimately add up to what you're trying to do in your career. So looking at a calendar, if you feel that you can only put 5 minutes every day towards thinking about what your career goal might be and things you want to do to get there, that's fine, but at least you're holding yourself accountable to something and having that mindset of urgency of we need to start now and do something every day to help us get further along in our journey. And most importantly, which we love to do, and it's human nature, it's something I do all of the time, is make excuses for myself. The reality is that 5 to 10 minutes every day thinking about your career is totally achievable, because there's probably 5 to 10 minutes that we're spending every day looking on Instagram, looking on Twitter, maybe we're on Facebook. And when you sit there and say, hey, that 10 minutes, that's really, I'm robbing myself of that investment and I'm putting it somewhere else and making an excuse, whereas I could take that time and invest it in myself and my career goals and thinking about what I want to do. So the whole mindset of urgency is around using time to your advantage and building a habit in the process of every day that you are working on something that's going to further what your eventual career goal is. Now, the next piece here is around breaking down your goals. So we've talked about having, this North Star goal that you're working towards in your career. We are now in this habit of working on it every day. So Monday, we have 5-10 minutes that we're spending on it. Tuesday, maybe another 10-15 minutes. But what are we actually working on? We need to put pen to paper of what is actually the goal that you want, and then further distilling it down. So this is where I mentioned earlier that I struggled with at the start of my career, where I was not doing this. I was getting frustrated that I wasn't moving fast enough in my career. I wasn't progressing to the next level. I felt that I was maybe in the wrong role, in the wrong job, but I actually wasn't sitting there and holding myself accountable towards any goals because I hadn't written anything down. I didn't even know what I was working towards and why I was getting so upset I didn't achieve anything. So this idea is to really look at your ultimate North Star goal and then chopping it up into bite-sized actions and other goals that you can achieve. So here's a very simple example, and one that you can take down as kind of your framework for how you may want to write down what your goals will be. So let's say ultimately you do want to become a CEO, whether that's of your own company or the company you work at. This is your ultimate career goal. There's a lot of things that go into becoming a CEO and things that you may need to work on to do that. So you can break that down even further and say, you know what, I should really focus on right now managing a division of the company because I feel that will help me become a CEO. That's an important piece of experience that I think will be necessary for me to get to the next step in my career, which is what I want, which is the title of the Chief Executive Officer. So you sit there, now you have a new goal of managing a division of your company, something that you want to work towards over time. But that's a pretty big goal in of itself. What does that mean, managing a division of your company? What do you have to do? Do you have the right experience yet? How do you get that experience? People that have managed divisions right now, what are they doing to get to that level? So then take down this and break it down even further. All right, I want to manage a division of my company. how big is the division? Okay, there's a bunch of teams that make up the division. Maybe the next thing I work on to get to that point is leading multiple teams within the division. And you sit there and say, you know what, if I want the divisional experience and title, maybe I work towards a position where I'm leading multiple teams in that division and being a manager to those teams. And really, this whole practice is that you're just taking every piece of the puzzle and breaking it down even further. So it's a bit more manageable. It's less like boiling the ocean, where it's not so intimidating of a goal that you don't do anything. This is something that you're breaking down that you're able to spend time on every day. So if your goal now is to lead multiple teams within your division, that's something a bit more near term of like, okay, I'm going to talk to this manager, understand how I can slot myself into an opening of managing a team, and then what teams are available for me to manage that ultimately may help me manage this entire division as I gain more experience. And my hope and my goal is that managing division will give me a lot of experience to help me make the case that I should become the chief executive officer. And this is really a framework to use for any goal that you may have. Possibly it's something in your own business. Possibly you want to get into a new industry. I see here that someone has a goal to be a health and fitness blog writer. You can break that down and think about, okay, well, if I want to be in this industry as a writer, maybe I am committing that I'm going to do 100 pieces of content before I even put anything out on the internet. I'm actually going to create all the content first and hold myself accountable to that before I go out and distribute it and create my platform. So it's really just about taking everything step by step and building the habit where you're working on it, you're holding yourself accountable, and you're doing things that are actionable and bite-sized. Things are not so intimidating that you don't start anywhere, because where this all really goes wrong and where you'll frustrate yourself is if you're not doing anything. Because like anything, if you're not putting in some sort of effort or some sort of input, there's going to be no output and there's going to be no realization of some type of outcome of your actions. It's all about building the muscle to start somewhere and building your career goals. So the other aspect of this is thinking about that this may suck and it may be frustrating and it may be uncomfortable. And there is conversations that I have with clients where we want immediate gratification and they're not seeing it, but there's a reason to that. And there's kind of a mindset that you have to put yourself into of knowing this might hurt a little bit, it might be uncomfortable before you see any actual outcome come of it. And actually science does support that. Through some research that I was going through, it's about 21 days are needed to actually really establish a true habit. If you kind of, one goal might be to get a new job in a different industry, and you decide to update your resume and you blast your resume out to a bunch of employers or apply to jobs and you don't see any outcome of that, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to say like, well, maybe this isn't all worth it. Maybe I'm not actually going to achieve my goal if I'm not seeing any immediate results. But science and research will show us that you probably won't see immediate results, and you'll have to spend about 3 weeks doing this and going through the aspect of building behaviors and the habit to actually truly make that part of your psyche and the way that you approach your career planning. And a lot of this will be self-motivation, where you'll have days that you're not going to be motivated to work on thinking about your goals or what the next step is. You're going to be frustrated that you're not seeing results and the outcome of your work so far, and you're really going to want to just throw in the towel. But I like thinking about this number, knowing that there is an actual scientific reason through research that humans need established time building a habit for them to really cement that in their behaviors. And this is a lot of just human nature, where we need time doing something over and over for it to feel comfortable for us to keep going. But really breaking through all the hardship is all about the mindset that you create going into this, knowing that there's going to be a little bit of pain before there's immediate gain. And I think a lot of this is the society that we live in, where everyone wants the overnight success story. And that's usually what we hear about of the people that are the overnight success story, which is really 10, 15 years in the making. So just going into it, knowing that there's going to be a little bit of hardship and some self-motivation needed while you're establishing these habits to build your goals for your career is important, and something that you shouldn't beat yourself up over, because that's what I struggled with. And the second I let go of that, a lot of doors opened and a lot of things came my way that have helped me in my career so far. And finally, I think although it's going to be tough and there's going to be a lot of things that maybe won't go right the first time around, you should be really proud of yourself, because you are doing small steps every day and building a habit that will add up. You are spending the time to actually invest in yourself and your career, and that in the long run will pay dividends. I think it's important to celebrate the small wins. If the small win means that you spend 1 week, 15 minutes a day, sitting down and writing down your career goals and doing it over and over until you felt you had the correct set of goals in front of you, that is a win. That is better, and you are better for it than you were 7 days ago when you had nothing written down and you hadn't done anything towards creating your career goal. So celebrate the small wins along the way. A lot of it is going to be a journey. It's going to be a multi-week, month, year process, and you should celebrate the small wins and be proud of yourself along the way, because it can be tough, but this is something that you're doing, is investing in yourself. And sometimes we let distraction and outside forces take us away from investing in ourselves, and just the mere action of spending the time thinking about your career and what you want out of life and how you want to give back to society, you should be proud of that. You're spending mind share towards that and not putting your mind towards other things. So that's all I have for today. As I mentioned, I am a coach that's focused more on early to mid-stage career planning, as well as negotiation strategies. In particular, I work closely with women in business. I'm Habit Coach certified on the platform. By way of my background, I have spent most of my career on Wall Street and in finance, working at Fortune 100 companies. I, by background academically, have a business and engineering background. So I've worked in technology and finance. And I hope that all of you have found something out of these strategies that I've used, which is to really just think about what is your ultimate goal. Don't intimidate yourself by thinking about what is the North Star. Make sure you take note of it. And then building a habit where you work on it every day. You take the goal, you break it down into bite-sized actions and other goals that you feel that you can achieve along the process, and prepare yourself for the mindset that this is urgent, that you need to continue working on it, and you need to motivate yourself, because there will be times where you'll feel very unmotivated if you're not seeing results right away. But always thinking about, in the long run, the actions you're taking every day, step by step, are really going to pay off. Because if you think about what would happen if you quit and you just stopped this whole practice and you stopped to think about what your career goals will be and planning for it, you will be no further along than where you were. So it's important to continually invest in yourself and your career and what you want out of it. And in the process, find a way to, give back to yourself as well as others, because I think that always comes back to you in the long run. So with that, I would love to open it up and have some time for questions and any thoughts that people might have. I see a bunch of the career goals that have been mentioned here. Someone wants to double their company's revenue, which is very exciting. I'm sure they will achieve it. Someone else is looking to finish their novel and be more active on Medium. Someone else is looking to set up accountability for a variety of people who want to correct around their goals and help each other along the way, which I love. I think group support and accountability is really critical. And I see Andrew mentioned that he does not feel focused enough to follow through with most of my goals. And then something else comes up or have a few rough days. How do you motivate clients like this? This is a common, this is a common situation. And that's what I talk to clients about, of distraction and not feeling motivated are very natural. And I actually do think that means you're doing something correctly, because you are feeling you are so invested in it that you are feeling acutely how things are going. And I think that's actually a really good thing, because by you feeling that you're not focused enough to keep following through, it means you're thinking about this. If you were just not at all focused on it and you felt like, I got this in the bag, I don't need to actually work on it every day, like I'm totally on track, you're actually probably fooling yourself a little bit. And I think humans tend to do that, where we'll kind of create excuses in a scenario to just convince ourselves of what we want to believe, not actually what's happening. So I motivate my clients by really trying to enforce the idea of the calendar habit building. I think it's really helpful. Whether you use an online note-taking app, a Google Calendar, you just write it down, which there's a lot of power in just pen to paper and actually writing it down. I think it holds yourself accountable. I've also talked to clients about setting an alarm every day on your phone. So, if you forget about anything related to your career building during that day, and then an alarm goes off at 4:30 in the afternoon, you're going to wonder, oh, why is this alarm going off? Oh, it's because I've not done anything today to think about my career goals or written anything down. So there's small strategies you can do to just start to build that habit and keep yourself motivated. But I think that if you're feeling kind of down about the process, or you're not feeling motivated, take a step back and just realize you're feeling something for a reason, because you've invested yourself mentally into this. And that's a good thing. And that's the silver lining of those feelings. So, all right. Any other questions? Schedule and task management apps helpful. I have used a few. To be honest, I'm not the most tech savvy with like all of the hot new apps with taking notes. I know there's OneNote and kind of a bunch of online ones. To be honest, I love like writing down a to-do list. I actually do always have a piece of paper and a pad and a pen, and I'll write things down. And I love the action and gratification of crossing things off. You obviously can do that digitally. So sometimes I try to not really reinvent the wheel and just kind of use old-fashioned pen and paper to keep myself on track. And then every week, I do schedule things out throughout the week of saying, I need to look at these items and these tasks on this day. And if I don't do it by that day, I don't just let it fall off the calendar. It gets pushed to somewhere else on the calendar. So it's always top of mind for me. All right. Any other questions? I appreciate the positive feedback I'm seeing. I'm glad some folks are enjoying this. And maybe some other folks will try the alarm idea, which I find really helpful. And any other goals that people have for the year that they want to share. It's kind of scary saying it out loud, but I think it's important and allows you to be comfortable with the goal and allows you to hold yourself accountable. And all of us here in this session that have shared will hold each other accountable, because we've seen what everyone has said. Beating imposter syndrome. That is a very good goal. That is, and along the line, someone else, Brianne, just said, don't fear failing and looking dumb. It is so true. And this is something in particular that I mentioned my focus on women in business. There's been many rooms that I have been where I was the only woman in the room, or the only person that had my experience or whatever it might be. And I felt that because I was someone in the room that was sort of didn't seem like everyone else, that I shouldn't have been there. And some of the best advice that I have gotten in my career is, regardless of your situation, your background, your credentials, anything that you may use as some sort of marker to say how successful you are, just always have an opinion on something, and don't be afraid to share your opinion. We're all human here. We are all, creatures of free will, and we have thoughts and we have desires and emotions, and really don't be afraid to share your opinion in a room, because your voice is just as important as everyone else's voice. And the only people that say that your voice aren't important, well, they just should not matter to your career planning, because if that's their attitude, that's on them. It is not on you. And you have a seat at the table for a reason. So use that seat and don't let it go to waste. And that's something that I try to remind myself. And we have the beauty of technology these days, where we have events like this, where we can all have a seat at the table all across the world and just kind of dial in and share our video and our thoughts through chat, and everyone's able to kind of have a seat equally, which is really great. So I love that people are using some goals this year to beat imposter syndrome, because it'll be something that can, if you let it erode your goal planning and your career planning, it will. So it's always something to be mindful of. Well, cool. I'm glad. I don't think we have any other questions, and we're almost at time. I hope everyone's been enjoying the event virtually and enjoyed this presentation. Feel free to reach out to me on the platform, or I'm pretty active on Twitter. And I would love to chat with you and see if there's any way I can help, or if you have any questions about this presentation and some of the thoughts I shared. And I would also love to hear from you if you have strategies and ideas that have been helpful for you, and kind of help each other and stay accountable in our 2021 career planning, because I think we all deserve a year of really owning our goals and being positive and seeing where we can go for the next 12 months. So thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with some of you in the future, and please stay in touch. And I hope everyone stays safe and stays well in the next year, and enjoys the rest of the session today. Thanks all.